Traveling the world is an incredible way to experience new cultures, meet interesting people, and create unforgettable memories. But not every destination is as welcoming as you might hope, especially if you're an American traveler in 2024. Whether due to diplomatic tensions, cultural differences, or recent events, some countries have become increasingly unwelcoming to Americans. Knowing which countries might pose a challenge can help you avoid uncomfortable situations, or worse, unsafe encounters. In today's video, we're counting down the top 10 countries where Americans are not exactly rolling out the welcome mat in 2024. Whether you're planning your next vacation or just curious about global travel trends, this list is essential viewing. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest videos. Let's get started. Number 10. Russia. Tensions between the United States and Russia have been high for several years. But in 2024, the relationship between these two global powers has reached new levels of strain. Ongoing geopolitical conflicts, coupled with mutual sanctions and a growing mistrust between governments, have made Russia a particularly challenging destination for American travelers. For Americans, traveling to Russia in 2024 comes with significant risks. The U.S. Department of State has issued numerous travel advisories warning of the potential for harassment, arbitrary detentions, and difficulties with Russian authorities. Furthermore, the strained diplomatic relations mean that consular support for American citizens may be limited, making it difficult to resolve issues that might arise. Obtaining a visa to enter Russia has become increasingly difficult for Americans, with longer processing times and more stringent requirements. In some cases, Americans have been denied entry altogether, even with valid visas. Anti-American sentiment has been on the rise in Russia, fueled by state-controlled media and political rhetoric. This can lead to unfriendly encounters for Americans, especially in more rural areas or regions with strong nationalist sentiments. While Russia's rich history and cultural landmarks might be enticing, the current geopolitical climate makes it a risky destination for Americans. If you're planning to visit, exercise caution and stay informed about the latest travel advisories. Number 9. North Korea. North Korea has long been one of the most isolated and secretive countries in the world, and in 2024, it remains one of the least welcoming places for American travelers. The country's strict regime, combined with ongoing diplomatic tensions with the United States, makes it a destination that Americans are strongly advised to avoid. Traveling to North Korea is inherently risky, especially for Americans. The U.S. government has banned the use of U-passports for travel to North Korea, citing the serious risk of arrest and long-term detention. Americans who have traveled to North Korea in the past have faced severe consequences, including lengthy prison sentences and forced labor. North Korea's government imposes strict controls on all visitors, and Americans are no exception. Tourists are closely monitored at all times, and even minor infractions, such as taking unauthorized photographs or making casual remarks about the regime, can result in harsh penalties. With no formal diplomatic relations between the U.S. and North Korea, Americans who find themselves in trouble have very limited options for assistance. The Swedish embassy in Pyongyang provides consular services for Americans, but the ability to resolve serious issues is extremely limited. North Korea's repressive regime, coupled with the high risks involved, makes it one of the least welcoming countries for Americans in 2024. For those considering a visit, the dangers far outweigh any potential benefits. Number 8. Iran. Iran has a long history of tense relations with the United States, and in 2024, these tensions are as high as ever. While Iran is home to a rich cultural heritage and stunning landscapes, Americans are often met with suspicion and hostility, making it a challenging destination. The ongoing diplomatic rift between the U.S. and Iran has led to a strong anti-American sentiment within the country. This is further fueled by government propaganda, which portrays the U.S. as a major adversary. As a result, Americans traveling to Iran may face hostility, both from authorities and from locals. Obtaining a visa to visit Iran is notoriously difficult for Americans. The process is lengthy and uncertain, with many applicants being denied without explanation. Even those who do obtain visas may face additional scrutiny and restrictions during their stay. The U.S. Department of State advises against travel to Iran, citing risks such as arbitrary arrest and detention, particularly for Americans who also hold Iranian citizenship. The Iranian government has detained several Americans in recent years, often on charges of espionage or subversion, leading to lengthy prison sentences. While Iran's history and culture are undeniably fascinating, the significant risks and challenges faced by American travelers make it a destination to avoid in 2024. For those who do decide to visit, it's crucial to be aware of the potential dangers and to proceed with extreme caution. Number 7. Venezuela. Venezuela, once a prosperous nation with vibrant cities and stunning natural beauty, has been in a state of political and economic turmoil for years. In 2024, the situation remains dire, and the country has become increasingly inhospitable to American travelers. Venezuela's political landscape is marked by ongoing power struggles, protests, and widespread corruption. The government's strained relationship with the United States has fueled anti-American sentiment, making it a risky destination for American tourists. Venezuela's economy has collapsed, leading to severe shortages of basic necessities such as food, medicine, and fuel. This economic crisis has contributed to a rise in crime, including violent crime and kidnapping, making the country one of the most dangerous in the region. The U.S. government has issued strong warnings against travel to Venezuela due to the high risk of crime, civil unrest, and arbitrary detention. Americans who do travel to Venezuela may find themselves targeted for theft, extortion, or kidnapping, particularly in urban areas. Venezuela's ongoing crisis and the high levels of danger faced by American travelers make it a destination to avoid in 2024. For those seeking to explore South America, safer alternatives exist that offer rich cultural experiences without the associated risks. Number 6. Syria. Syria, a country devastated by years of civil war, remains one of the most dangerous places in the world, especially for American travelers. Despite its rich history and ancient landmarks, the ongoing conflict and severe instability make it an extremely unwelcoming destination. The Syrian civil war, which began in 2011, continues to ravage the country, leading to widespread destruction, displacement, and loss of life. The presence of various armed groups, including extremist organizations, makes Syria one of the most perilous places for foreign visitors. Given the complex political and military situation, Americans are often viewed with suspicion and hostility. This is particularly true in areas controlled by groups opposed to the U.S. government's involvement in the region. Kidnapping, torture, and other violent acts against foreigners, including Americans, are serious risks. The war has decimated much of Syria's infrastructure, including hospitals, transportation networks, and public services. This makes travel within the country extremely difficult and dangerous, with little to no access to medical care or emergency services. Syria's ongoing conflict and the extreme risks to American travelers make it one of the least welcoming countries in the world. Any travel to Syria should be avoided, and those considering it should be aware of the severe dangers involved. Number 5. Libya. Libya, a country plagued by ongoing conflict and instability, is another destination where Americans are not welcome in 2024. The country's internal strife, combined with anti-American sentiment, makes it a highly dangerous place for U.S. citizens. Since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, Libya has been in a state of turmoil, with various factions vying for control. The lack of a central government has led to widespread lawlessness, with armed groups and militias controlling large parts of the country. This has created an environment of extreme danger for foreign travelers, particularly Americans. Anti-American sentiment is strong in Libya, especially among groups opposed to U.S. foreign policy in the region. Americans are often viewed with suspicion, and the risk of kidnapping, violent crime, or being caught in the crossfire of ongoing conflicts is high. The U.S. government has long advised against travel to Libya, citing the high risk of violence, terrorism, and civil unrest. The lack of a functioning government also means that consular assistance is virtually non-existent, leaving Americans with few options if they encounter trouble. Libya's ongoing conflict, political instability, and hostility towards Americans make it one of the most dangerous countries to visit in 2024. Travelers are strongly advised to avoid the country entirely and consider safer alternatives in North Africa. Number 4. Yemen. Yemen, a country torn apart by civil war and humanitarian crisis, remains one of the most dangerous and unwelcoming countries for Americans in 2024. The ongoing conflict, combined with a severe humanitarian crisis, has created an environment where safety for foreigners, especially Americans, is virtually non-existent. The Yemeni civil war, which began in 2014, has devastated the country, leading to widespread destruction, displacement, and a catastrophic humanitarian situation. The conflict has also created a power vacuum, with various armed groups, including terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and ISIS, vying for control. This makes Yemen an extremely dangerous place for any foreigner, especially Americans, who are often seen as targets. Yemen is currently facing one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, with millions of people in need of food, clean water, and medical care. The ongoing conflict has destroyed much of the country's infrastructure, including hospitals and schools, making it difficult for residents and even more perilous for travelers. For Americans, the risks are compounded by the lack of any functioning U.S. diplomatic presence in the country, severely limiting access to help in an emergency. Yemen's ongoing conflict, severe humanitarian crisis, and extreme risks to American travelers make it one of the least welcoming countries in the world in 2024. Any travel to Yemen should be avoided at all costs, and those considering it should be aware of the extreme dangers involved. Number 3. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, long a hotspot for conflict and instability, remains one of the most dangerous places in the world for Americans in 2024. The country's complex political landscape, ongoing insurgency, and strong anti-American sentiment make it a highly unwelcoming destination. Despite the U.S. withdrawal in 2021, Afghanistan continues to face significant security challenges. The Taliban now controls much of the country, and other militant groups, including ISIS-K, are active, further destabilizing the region. For Americans, this creates a highly volatile environment where the risks of violence, kidnapping, or even death are extraordinarily high. The Taliban and other militant groups view Americans with deep suspicion and hostility, often considering them legitimate targets. This has led to numerous attacks on foreigners, particularly those from the United States, who are seen as symbols of Western intervention. With the closure of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Americans in Afghanistan have very limited access to consular services or emergency assistance. This lack of diplomatic support further increases the risks for us citizens traveling in the region, as there are few options for help if they encounter trouble. Afghanistan's ongoing conflict, the presence of insurgent groups, and strong anti-American sentiment make it one of the most dangerous countries for us citizens in 2024. Travel to Afghanistan should be avoided under all circumstances due to the extreme risks involved. Number 2. Somalia. Somalia, a country plagued by decades of civil war, terrorism, and lawlessness, remains one of the least welcoming places for Americans in 2024. The lack of a stable government, ongoing conflict, and presence of extremist groups make it a perilous destination for foreign travelers. Somalia has been without a stable government for decades, leading to widespread lawlessness and the rise of militant groups such as Al-Shabaab. These groups frequently target foreigners, including Americans, for kidnapping, ransom, and violent attacks. The ongoing conflict between different factions has further destabilized the country, making it a dangerous place for any visitor. Somalia is notorious for both terrorism and piracy, particularly in the Gulf of Aden and along its coastline. Al-Shabaab, an Islamist militant group with ties to Al-Qaeda, has carried out numerous attacks in Somalia, targeting government institutions, hotels, and foreign nationals. Additionally, piracy remains a significant threat in the waters off Somalia's coast, making sea travel extremely dangerous. The lack of basic infrastructure in Somalia, including hospitals, transportation, and law enforcement, makes it difficult to navigate the country safely. The absence of effective government control means that crime and violence are rampant, further increasing the risks for American travelers. Somalia's ongoing conflict, presence of extremist groups, and widespread lawlessness make it one of the most dangerous and unwelcoming countries for Americans in 2024. Traveling to Somalia is highly discouraged, as the risks far outweigh any potential benefits. Number 1. Iraq. Topping our list is Iraq, a country that remains extremely volatile and dangerous for Americans in 2024. The ongoing instability, presence of multiple armed factions, and strong anti-American sentiment make Iraq one of the least welcoming places for U.S. citizens. Despite efforts to stabilize Iraq over the past 2 decades, the country remains deeply divided and unstable. Sectarian violence, political unrest, and the presence of various militias continue to pose significant risks. The resurgence of ISIS in certain areas has further destabilized the country, creating an environment of fear and insecurity. Anti-American sentiment in Iraq is pervasive, particularly among militant groups and some segments of the population. The U.S. military presence in Iraq and its role in the region have made Americans targets for violence, kidnapping, and terrorism. U.S. citizens are often viewed with suspicion and hostility, particularly in areas outside of Baghdad and other major cities. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad operates under extremely high security, but even this cannot fully mitigate the risks faced by Americans in Iraq. The volatile security situation means that diplomatic support may be limited or delayed in times of crisis, further complicating the safety of us citizens in the country. Iraq's ongoing instability, strong anti-American sentiment, and the presence of various armed groups make it the most dangerous and unwelcoming country for Americans in 2024. Travel to Iraq is highly discouraged, as the risks to personal safety are severe and the potential for harm is significant. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends who love to travel, and subscribe to our channel for more insights into the world's most intriguing and sometimes dangerous places. Have you had experiences traveling in any of these countries? We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video as we continue to explore the world's most fascinating and sometimes risky destinations. Stay safe out there.